I'm bored. This is Buddy. So, as you can see, Buddy doesn't want to hang out with me. Wearing the chef jacket today. It's been a while. So something you might not know about me is in the really real world, I am actually a professional cook. Well, semi-professional. Professionalism isn't exactly my strong suit. Let's just say that I really hope HR never walks into the kitchen. But I do work in a restaurant. This is my jacket, one of them anyways. Knocking stuff around over here. Oil! Anyways, I got laid off in the middle of March. The 16th of March was my last shift. That was the day that we all went into the kitchen, cleaned up everything, did a thorough deep clean, and threw out all the food that we couldn't save or donate. The local women's shelter, I think, ended up getting a lot of our food that we couldn't otherwise salvage or freeze or whatever. But at least it went somewhere good. But anyways, so I've been off since the 17th of March, and it is now, 2021. I don't even know what day it is, to be honest with you. The days just keep blending together. I've put on a bunch of weight, which sure doesn't have anything to do with eating habits or anything like that, but I actually haven't had one of these in my home in years, but I kind of want to make some donuts. Okay, ingredients time. So we've got 2 1/4 cups of, the recipe calls for cake flour. I don't have any cake flour, and I'm not running to the grocery store for one ingredient, so I'm using all-purpose. Just means that it's not going to be quite as tender as if you were using cake flour. So we've got 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/2 cup of sugar, just plain old granulated sugar, 2 large egg yolks, 2 tablespoons of butter it calls for, but I only had margarine, so that's what we're using, and 1/2 cup of sour cream, and of course canola oil. Canola oil for frying. For the glaze that's going to go on these donuts, we've got 3 1/2 cups of powdered sugar. That is all of the powdered sugar down to the last 1/4 cup that I had. We've got 1 1/2 teaspoons of corn syrup. We've got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and when I actually go to make that, I will grab 1/3 cup of hot water. So we'll just pretend that's in there for now. In fact, here, there's a measuring cup. That's taking the place of the water. So first things first, we will sift our dry ingredients. Now I know at least my baking powder is pretty lumpy. Normally I don't really sift, but in this case I know I need to. So we got our flour, baking powder, salt. I love these little medicine cups, by the way. They have little graduations on the side. It's cool. This, in this case, is not a dry ingredient. Sugar goes with the wet ingredients, because we're going to cream these two things together. You'll see. So we're going to sift this nicey. In the old days they said it was to aerate the flour. Mostly it's just to get out the little chunks that may be in there. So we've got a nice sifted base here. We're going to set that aside. Okay, so off camera I wrestled the butter into the bowl here. There's just a very small amount of it. not used to recipes that have so little butter, but flour's going in, or sorry, sugar's going in. We're gonna beat this until it is grainy, the recipe says. Yes, I'm using a recipe. Okay, that looks about right. It's lightened in color. It's not going to go smooth because there's a lot of sugar for the amount of fat. But the next step is to add the yolks, 2 of them, one at a time. It's going to be a little difficult, as you can probably tell, but we'll get her done. We're going to add them one at a time, let it incorporate, and then add the rest. Alright, time to bring the rest of the dough together. We've got sour cream, as these are sour cream glazed donuts, and we've got flour. We're going to alternate adding the 2 ingredients. We're going to start with the sour cream and end with the flour, 3 additions. So we'll add about a third of it. About a third of the flour. Let that mix a little bit. Now, as I said, I'm using all-purpose flour instead of cake flour, so I'm not going to want to wait too long because I don't want to build up gluten. Okay, so I just gathered up the dough into a bit of a puck here, wrapped it in saran wrap. Now I did add just a little bit of cream to my dough, just because my flour is very dry. Depends on the season and the moisture content of the air. You may have to adjust your dough. Typically, if you're just using flour that you just bought at the store, you shouldn't have to. It's usually a good moisture level, but yeah. So this is going to go into the fridge for an hour, and yeah, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, the last thing we need to do before we get frying is to make the glaze. Now the recipe said to sift the icing sugar, so that's what we're going to do. I don't know if that's really absolutely necessary, to be honest with you, because we're going to be dissolving all this powdered sugar into hot water anyways, so I'm not really sure what the point of sifting is, but hey, I would like to do what I'm told, I guess? I don't know. I got nothing. Yeah, you can see the lumps in there that if this were flour, that would have been unacceptable for use in a baked good. But yeah, there we go. So we've got our powdered sugar sifted. We're gonna add our salt, our vanilla extract. That's white vanilla from the Dominican Republic. We're gonna use some of this water to rinse out the cups. And then we've got corn syrup, which, yeah, we're just gonna get dirty here. There, good enough. I was thinking maybe coffee would have been a good hot liquid to put in here, like a coffee glaze, or maybe green tea or something like that. There we go, glaze. All right, we're set up for rolling out our donuts now. I've got my 3D printed donut cutter. You can buy these on Amazon, you know, metal, but I didn't feel like waiting, so I just utilized my 3D printer. We've got some flour and a rolling pin. We're going to flour the surface just lightly, and just poof. Now the instructions say to roll it out to 1/2 of an inch. I don't know what that is. I'm a centimeter kind of person. So we're just going to kind of roll it out to where I think it should be. That looks good. So again, we've got our donut cutter. Push it on in there. Ta-da! We've got our donut and our donut hole, known here as Timbits. Now we've moved over the deep fryer. I'm just going to do a test one. I'm going to just kind of swim it in there and just drop it. You don't want to let it splash because that'll cause you to get burnt. Throw in a Timbit as well. Got my spider. The other thing we're going to need is a plate with hearts on it, preferably, and some paper towel. Cook time is about 2 minutes per side. Okay, I think those are looking good. So we're going to take them out and onto our paper towel, just to soak up some of that oil. And then from there, it's going into the glaze. So we'll get those into the glaze. I'll just give it a bit of a flip and coat. You want to get lots of that glaze on there. Now that's going to be hot, so it's going to melt most of it off. And then from there, onto a tray. Now you'll want to put your donuts on a wire rack so that the excess glaze will drip off down into the bottom. And once that cools, you got donuts. So anyways, yeah, if you liked this episode, well, yeah, like it. I'm thinking about maybe doing a bit of a series with these donuts. Maybe try out a few different types, a few different flavors, different glazes, etc. So if you want to see some comments, I'll be more than happy to try it out. This is my first time actually making donuts. I thought it turned out pretty well. There's a couple things that I could have done a little bit differently, and next time I go on a shopping trip, I'll get the actual proper ingredients to do this right. But it was fun. Now I'm going to throw some chicken in there and have myself a meal because I'm hungry and I don't want to just eat all those donuts. So bye.